Can I get you closer to me? That's okay. Okay. Yeah, inshallah. طيب. Which version you have?
Yeah.
Have you bought it? You bought it?
Yeah.
Very good. Right.
Signed in the Bible.
Who's got the book? Will you bring it up?
There's more coming.
You got the book? You got more coming in?
Yeah. Next 2 weeks, inshallah.
Postman's on strike.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
No, Al-Hidayah said they had about 10 or 12. We ordered all of them. And then when it came to send it, there was an error on the date scale. They only had 4.
Okay.
Stop.
All right. Okay. Fine.
Everywhere else is out. So then we should stop.
Are we starting from the Bible?
I will tell you. Maybe we can do nothing today. Just focus. Don't worry about it. Ya Allah. Right. Before I start, Ahmed, is it enough for you to have that just YouTubed? Then you take it from the YouTube, or do you need to record on here?
It's okay, Sheikh, yeah.
It's okay. Fine. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praises due to Allah. We praise Him, seek His aid, and ask His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of ourselves and from the evils of our actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, none can lead astray, and whomsoever Allah leads astray, none can guide. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except for Allah alone, be no partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad is a slave and his messenger. أما بعد, to proceed. فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله, the best of talks is the Quran. وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد, and the best of guidance is the guidance of his messenger Muhammad, by peace and blessings be upon him. وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها, and very the most evil of all matters in Islam are the ones innovated. فإن كل محدثة بدعة, for every newly innovated matter in Islam is an innovation. وكل بدعة ضلالة, and every innovation in Islam is a misguidance. وكل ضلالة في النار, and every misguidance will lead to the hellfire. Basically, we have, alhamdulillah, agreed upon to start a new book. And before we start the new book, I would like to make just some recommendations here. Number one, that every person who hasn't brought a book, or at least printed some sort of PDF files of downloaded stuff from the internet, and he's just sitting down and taking from the benefit just by listening, he is actually lost at least 50% of the knowledge that he would gain if he had a book and a notebook in which he would record some of the benefits while we are, inshallah, going through the book. And if the person is coming to the class thinking that this is a class of entertainment, it is not actually an entertainment class. And that is why a class of this needs dedication. It needs that you have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed you to sit in such a class, and I'm not saying because I am the teacher, but because of the material that is going to be discussed, because this is from the blessings of Allah for a person to make him understand the foundation of all his deen. Any deen that you do, you're not going to be accepted until you understand the foundation of this deen, and that is Tawheed. Tawheed, which is linguistically speaking, it means monotheism. But monotheism is not just a simple word, it's not just a word you parrot, La ilaha illallah, and that's it. No, it's more than that. It's actually, you have to understand what the implication of this La ilaha illallah, and all the prophets that were sent for this particular task, and that is the Tawheed, to worship Allah Azza wa Jal وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I created not the jinn and mankind except for, that is to worship me. That means except to command them to worship me. That's what it means. So when they are being created, they're created for the person so that the Almighty commands them to worship the Almighty Azza wa Jal. And worship him with one thing is called Tawheed. That is why, as I said, sitting in such circles to understand your Tawheed makes your deeds to be accepted. All your deeds rotate around this Tawheed. And if your Tawheed is correct, then Allah Azza wa Jal will exempt you from major things that might you fall into it, but because of your ignorance. Imagine that this person is a person who asked his son to do something that in any way or shape or form, it is translated as defiant to the Almighty, yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts him in paradise because of his monotheism. This person, when he's about to die, he gathers his sons. All of them are dutiful to their father. And then he says to them, which we call in Arabic, wasiyah ja'ir, a very oppressive, unjust wasiyah, which is will. And then he said to them, if I die, then make sure that you burn me. And then you take my ashes and scatter them, half of them in the sand and half in the land and half of them in the sea. For verily, if Allah is going to be able to gather me and put me back, he will punish me a punishment that he never punished anybody else. This hadith is Sahih Bukhari. Now this person had done two things: major kufr and major sin. The major sin is this, as I said, unjust and unjust will, that is for him to be burnt. And the sunnah from the time of the sons of Adam alayhi salam, okay, until today is to bury. Remember when one of them killed the other, and Allah sent the crow how to bury? So that was the sunnah, the way. It was not burning. So in any nation, in any generation, in any era of the history, it was burning. Yet this person asked for himself to be burnt. And this is something which hasn't been inhabited or inherited from the generations before. So that's a major sin. And his sons were faithful to his will. And the number two sin is that he had indulged them to do the haram. And then the major kufr is doubting the ability of Allah to bring him back. Yet he is monotheistic, muwahhid, worship none except for Allah. And because of his fear and because of his ignorance, that led him to do such a thing, led him to ask his sons to do such a thing. And Allah, Prophet tells us of something which is going to take place. This is something, a glimpse of what is taking place. And that is Allah summons him before him. And he asks him, and he knows, why did you do this, my slave? He said, khashyatuka, your fear. This is monotheism, ikhwan. Because Tawheed comprises outward and inward. And the most important thing are the inward, which will lead to the outward actions. And from the inward actions, al-khashya, to fear Allah, from the actions of the heart. Because if you fear Allah Azza wa Jal, that means you're gonna love Allah. You can't fear something and you hate him, unless you hate like a snake. You fear Allah and you love him. So he loves Allah. He loves Allah. He fears him and he loves him. And that made him to submit and to have this fear. But he was so scared because he was ignorant. He said that word out of ignorance. If Allah is able to gather me back. So it's like it's making it difficult for the Almighty to put him back. Half of my ashes in the land, half of my ashes in the sea. That's major kufr. Yet Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says to him, why did you do that, my slave? He says, your fear for Lord. Tawheed. So he says to him, then I have forgiven you. I have forgiven you because of the Tawheed, the monotheism. So get your monotheism correct, then alhamdulillah. And this deen of ours, this methodology of ours, the sunnah that we belong to is based upon Tawheed. That's what we call Ahlul Tawheed. Not like other sects, they don't focus upon the Tawheed. We focus upon the Tawheed. Da'watuna, da'wah al-Tawheed. It's not the da'wah of, just to make sure that you are truthful, make sure, yes, truthful. But what is the point of being truthful, yet your Tawheed is corrupt? If your Tawheed is corrupt, your truthfulness will not get you anywhere. Get your Tawheed correct, then you'll be all right. And that's why, as I said, we are blessed to be in such a class, to learn this book. And from that Tawheed, I need to know the opposite. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I have to make sure I disbelieve in all the things that is against the monotheism, which we call it polytheism. So in order for me to get my monotheism correct, I have to get myself knowing the polytheism. I have to know all of those things that will scratch my Tawheed. It will nullify my Tawheed. I have to know those people who are calling for such a thing. I need to know وَبِضِدِّهَا تَتَبَيَّنُ الْأَشْيَاءُ. As we say in Arabic as a poetry, by the opposite we will know what we want. So Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, he said that the people they used to ask of the Prophet ﷺ about the good things, which is monotheism, good things. Yet I used to ask them about the bad things. The bad things, the things which is scratching the good things. I have to know them. Why? مَخَافَةَ أَنْ يُدْرِكَنِي. Maybe I will live to see such bad, then what do I need to do? And how do I know that this is bad? How can I distinguish? So I need to know the shirk in order to know the Tawheed. Because if I keep away from the shirk, I must be in the Tawheed. Because I could be monotheistic, but yet I'm scratching my monotheism with this shirk. I could nullify it without me knowing. When I know that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, that is a shirku for 70 plus types. If I ask you how many types of shirk, you could count up to 10 maybe. But 70 plus shirk. الربا 70 بابا والشرك مثل ذلك. Shirk is like riba, exactly. 17 types, you have 70 types, 70 types of shirk. So I need to know the shirk. And this shirk, this is the kufr. So what is the way to lead to the shirk? Is the way to lead to the shirk, there are things which are called doubtful matters. The doubtful matters are the tool through which those, wal-iyadu billah, the criminal, the wicked people, the innovators, the ones who are mushrikeen, they hunt those people who are monotheistic in order to make them to do polytheistic work. So it's called Ash-Shubuhaat. Hadith al-Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu anhu in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. One of the principles of Islam, al-halal bayyin wal-haram bayyin wa baynahuma umur mushtabihat or mushabbahat. Halal is clear, haram is clear. And between them, there is doubtful matters, gray area, we call it, gray area. Those are the ones which is the one dodgy. Prophet ﷺ, he said, Man waqa'a fiha waqa'a fil haram. If you have to fall into this gray area, you will fall into haram. So, وَمَنْ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ, he who does keep away from the shubuhat, the doubtful matters, فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. He had saved himself and he had saved also his honor. He saved his deen from being polluted. He saved himself from doing things wrong to the people. So the shubuhat is the hook, is the bait by which those criminal hook and bait, these people are monotheistic. How many people, you yourself, you know, who had been on monotheism, upon tawheed, upon the correct methodology, and yet because of those things which we call them doubtful matters, they've been hooked because of a small doubtful matter. He had listened to it and he couldn't encounter it, he couldn't repel it, and ended up with him to be on the wrong path. How many people you know yourself who were mashallah with you and yet they've been taken away because they weren't immunized? They were not immunized. Shame upon us. Shame upon us that we sit in front, not I would say da'iyah these days physically. No, we sit down in front of deviant da'iyah on YouTube, on TV for hours, for time. How much they spend to sit just to listen to the doubtful matters, yet they don't have some time to stop to come to such a class and learn the Tawheed. How many people you are? I've got more on the Zoom than you have. Maybe I have more than the Zoom and more than you have here. Shame upon us. We are not immunized. So we spend so much time to listen to a person. We don't know even if it's correct or not. Yet we don't have just few moments, 1 hour up to 2 weeks to sit down and learn our deen, to immunize ourselves. This is the book of Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat, which I was hesitant to teach it because I don't know how come we serious in this village to learn this book, because it's a book which hasn't got a match. I only taught it once, and I taught it to dedicated students. We were only about 17, 20 students, and it was closed. It is before the COVID-19, so there was no online. So it was enclosed area. We taught it, but those students became now, mashallah, students of knowledge who can really give da'wah. So it needs dedication, ya ikhwan. And as I said, our children, they like to be entertained with da'iyah who've got nothing. You must have heard about da'iyah who's got so many clicks, and suddenly, he talks ill about Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab, rahimahullah, which is the author of our book. Haven't you heard about this? Or you haven't? Why? Because this person didn't sit down and learn his deen. Didn't sit down. He's only caring about the likes. How many likes is going to get? How many people are going to participate in his YouTube channel? How many and how many, how many? He's looking about fame. What is fame going to do to you? Nothing. We have same thing like these people in the Arab world, in the Chinese world, in the Japanese world, in the Pakistani world. All of those, they are people calling to Jahannam. Du'atun ala abwabi Jahannam. They call people to Jahannam. Look, he's defaming, talking ill about Muhammad al-Wahhab rahimahullah because he had no knowledge. He did not sit and learn his deen. He did not sit and learn the book of the Shubuhat, Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat, or the book of Tawheed, or the book of Usul al-Thalatha. He didn't sit and learn it from a school of knowledge, or the students of knowledge. No, he's just caring about making he, and people are, oh yes, they see the title, okay, a rabbit that flew. You got about 20 million clicks on it. Rabbit that flew. A little rabbit, was with a little girl, and that girl, she looked the rabbit on the garden, a hook, or I don't know, a bird came and took it, and he just put a title about a rabbit that can fly. We got 20 million or more than 30 millions click on it. Subhanallah. How naive we are. Look at the people when they make commentary on those videos of these people. You look that even in Arabic, they don't even have to write Arabic properly. Dictation-wise, they fail. This is what the people are listening to. They like, this is entertainment. It's like watching wrestling match, football match. That's what they're doing. They're watching wrestling match, that's what they're watching. Subhanallah. So these are the classes that would make you immunized. Otherwise, they're going to be deviant. I'll give you some names. You don't know them, so I don't fear for you to hook with them. We had before, we had somebody called Al-Kayyad. We had something, which is on the YouTube. Somebody called as well, Islam al-Bihir. Somebody called recently, Sabar Mashhur. This person, he doesn't know what he's speaking about. He was in politics, and people like him because he does something strange. So some people listen to him. I listened to him at the beginning, you have to see. I thought he's got emptiness. And then he started talking about the deen. And then he started talking ill against the Sunnah books, Bukhari and Muslim and all of that. Slowly. How many people following him? Almost 1 million participants in the YouTube channel. 1 million. Those, you look at them even when they write, when our scholars in the knowledge refute that guy, they start making commentary against that sheikh. And when you look at their Arabic, they can't even read Arabic. How can you immunize yourself? How dare me to sit in front of somebody when I'm not immunized? I might take from his filth. These people will leave their pollution, leave their poison inside you without you knowing, and then you've had it. You've finished. You can't deal with it. So let's just make sure that our tawheed is getting correct. And as I said, this book has no replica. This Shaykh rahimahullah had made this book after he had made the book of At-Tawheed and the book of Usul al-Thalatha. Then those people who are dodgy at his time started saying this man is making takfir upon the Muslim. He's making people to be Ahl Bid'ah, they're not Ahl Sunnah. So they started throwing Shubuhat and doubtful. So an Imam, then he rolled his sleeve back and he made this and he sent it to the people there, to the villages, this little sort of papers containing this we're going to teach inshallah, and it's been named by the scholars later on Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat. Kashf means to reveal. Kashf means to reveal. Yakshif. Ash-Shubuhaat means the doubtful matters. And the only way we can do Kashf of Ash-Shubuhaat is in two ways: the intellectual and the religious way. Intellectual, aqli. So by aql, by reasoning, and also by the Quran and the Sunnah. By the aql, we find in the Quran how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had demolished lots of doubtful matters through intellectual matters. When the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was talking to his people and he was saying to them, how can it be the moon is my God, and the sun is my God? And he said, oh, this is my God. Oh, when he warmed out, oh, no, the sun is mine, it's bigger, it's my God. So intellectually he had said, basically he had demolished their argument. How can you worship the moon and the sun and all of that? You worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran, number of verses where he had said to us that you can use the argumentation of aql. Allah, when he said, قَالْ لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا, if the heavens and earth to be آلِهَةً إِلَّا اللَّهِ, that more than one God except for Allah, قَالْ لَفَسَدَتَا. That means the heaven and earth will be ruined. If you have two people to rule, if you have two gods, these guys are going to fight with each other. So it has to be what? One God. So that's an intellectual. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يقول لو كان معه آلهة. Say to them, O Muhammad, if he's got a God with him, كما يقولون, as they say, إذا لابتغوا إلى ذي العرش سبيلا. All of them, these gods, start fight to go and overcome the throne, to overrule the throne, to take the control of the throne. So only one God subhanahu wa ta'ala, عما يقولون علوا كبيرا. So Allah Azza wa Jal, he had basically used the intellectual argument into demolishing the doubtful methods that have been thrown by the kuffar. And the second way is to use the Quran and the Sunnah. So use the Quran and the Sunnah for demolishing such argument by bringing the right verse and the right hadith to demolish such an argument. All of those is by which we can make Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat. So we have to understand what are the Shubuhat that those who are deviant have been thrown onto us in order for us to learn how to demolish them. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he was so good in presenting to us the mechanism by which we demolish a doubtful matter. By the way, wallahi, doubtful matter is like a poison. It's like a rocket. It's like an arrow. If it touches your heart and stays there, it will ruin your life. It will ruin your deen. So without any hesitation, we'll start first of all with giving just a little glimpse of Imam al-Wahhab's biography. Imam al-Wahhab rahmatullah alayhi, his name is Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab ibn Sulaiman ibn Ali ibn Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Rashid ibn Barid ibn Muhammad ibn Mushrif ibn Umar ibn Awhiba Bani Taym. Then he is from Bani Tamim. His birth was in the year 1115 Hijriya, 1115, and he was born to a father and grandfather who were scholars in the deen. And as he was raised, he had memorized the Quran before he reached the 10 years old, and he had also learned the fiqh until he was a person of knowledge. And he was basically admired by his father because of his strength of his memorization. And he used to read a lot into the interpretation and the exegesis of the Quran and the Sunnah. And he been studying day and night. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal made him as an imam. So he used to memorize the mutun, and that is the text in the ulum, the knowledge of the religion. And not only that, he started to travel from one place to another, from Mecca, even to Basra, to gain the knowledge by meeting the scholars and learning on their hands. And he met some scholars in the hadith, some scholars in the tawheed, and so on and so forth. And Allah Azza wa Jal had given him the very sort of clever mind. He was smart, and he had started writing the first book, which is Kitab al-Tawheed. Kitab al-Tawheed, he'd written it in a stage which was after he had already drafted it. So he drafted it when he was in Basra, but later on when he was in Huraymala, he had written that book. When his father died, he started propagating his da'wah, which is the da'wah salafiyah. the da'wah of the scholars of the one who preceded him, da'wah that calls to the generation of the companions, and that is to be monotheistic, to worship Allah alone, nobody else, and to deny the worship of other than Allah Azza wa Jal, also attacking those who are innovators and those who are mushrikeen, polytheists. And he was aided as well at that time from Al-Saud, which they have given him, which is the strength of the state. And that's when you have a person of religion backed up and supported by the Sultan or the Khalifa or the President, then you'll have the strength of the da'wah. In his mu'allafat, he had written a number of books. One of them is Kitab al-Tawheed, which is the Beth, and then also Al-Usul al-Thalatha, and also Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat, and also Al-Kaba'ir. Al-Kaba'ir means the major sins. This is to show you that he was also keen to show the people the wrong things in order to avoid it. So he wrote about the Kaba'ir, the major sins. And also he had done some concises for some of the books, like the book of Zad al-Ma'ad. And he's got as well fatwa and letters being sent to villages, which has been compiled in one book. He had died 1206 after Hijrah. So that makes him more than 90 years in Hijri years. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him the mercy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him for what he had done to this ummah. Now, unfortunately, there are some people, and they will keep at it, saying that you Wahhabis only study Wahhabi books. It's not correct. We only studied 2 books already, Kitab al-Tawheed, and this book, which is Kitab Ash-Shubuhaat, with Sheikh Muhammad Wahhab. Other than that, we studied more than the books of Muhammad Wahhab. And to call us Wahhabi, we call it at-tanabus bil-alqab. You are actually defaming us with the names. When we say to you that you are Dabandi or a Brailwi, you are calling yourself Dabandi. So I'm not really calling you names. I'm calling you with what you're calling yourself. But when you call me Wahhabi, I don't think you've heard of any person whom you have accused to be a Wahhabi, he had said about himself, I'm a Wahhabi. No way. Have you heard? Have you come across somebody whom they call as a Wahhabi? Said, what's your madhab? I'm Wahhabi. No way. But they see, for ask them, I'm Dabandi, I'm Braili, I'm Ash'ari, I'm Maturidi. They are themselves. It's not. So when I call you, you are Ash'ari, I'm not defaming you. I am labeling you what you have labeled yourself. But when you call me something in order to lower me with a name that I don't really had attributed to myself, then I wouldn't say this name is going to humiliate me, because I could link it to something else. I could link it to the Wahhab, Allah Azza wa Jalla. Yes, I'm Wahhabi. Rabbana innaka anta al-Wahhab. I'm Wahhabi. Rabbani belongs to my Rabb, belongs to my Wahhab. But not Rabbani, the one in Afghanistan. No? Rabbani, as in Lord Allah Azza wa Jalla. Wahhabi, you understand me? Rabbani. Rabbani's name. I belong to Allah, like Hizbullah. Hizbullah, not the one Lebanon. Hizbullah, which is the Quran. أَلَا إِنَّ حِزْبَ اللَّهِ هُمُ الْغَالِبُونَ فَإِنَّ حِزْبَ اللَّهِ هُمُ الْغَالِبُونَ أَلَا إِنَّ حِزْبَ اللَّهِ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. So I am known to the Hizb of Allah, but not particular Hizb, which is in Lebanon, led by this Shia guy. Shia person. A'udhu billah. So anyway, we are studying this book because, as I said, this book hasn't got a record. This is the best. And we're going to, inshallah, shed light upon it. Inshallah, we will see how fast we are. I'm not going to be so fast. I'm not going to be as well so slow. But I will be open for your questions, bi'idhnillah, if you have any question to be asked. Okay, so let's just talk about the history of this book. We don't know exact date when the book was written, but we could see that this book was written by the Imam in order to refute the doubtful matters which is being thrown onto Sheikh Muhammad Wahhab regarding this Salafi da'wah. And when the Sheikh rahimahullah had mentioned the methodology of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah in the Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, because it's Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. If I'm asking Ismaili, who's coming to the classes, mashallah, out of these 3 Tawheed, the book of Tawheed that you studied, which one of these 3 categories that the book focuses upon? Don't disappoint me.
This book.
No, the book of Tawheed. I'll repeat the question. Tawheed is three categories: Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma' Sifat. Meaning Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, lordship, unity. Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, worship, unity. And Tawheed al-Asma' Sifat, and that is the names and attributes, monotheism or unity. Which one of the three types that the book of Tawheed that you've studied focuses upon?
Uluhiyya.
Al-Uluhiyyah, well done. Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Most of the book, it didn't talk about Tawheed al-Asma' Sifat, except for a few here and there. I know in my explanation, but Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. As Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the kuffar of Quraysh, they used to believe it. Allah is the creator of heavens and earth. Allah is the creator of their idols and the statues. They know that. They have no hesitation whatsoever. They are better than these atheists, or they are calling themselves advanced atheists. Better than ones who are Darwin, or the Darwinist people, the one who believe that we are from monkeys. No, they know that we are from Allah. But they used to take wasita, an intermediary between the worship of Allah and the worship of theirs. So they can't go to worship Allah unless they worship intercessors. So they take these intercessors لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفًا, in order to get us close to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So when the Shaykh Muhammad Wahab rahimahullah started his da'wah, and he made the book of Tawheed, basically expanding on Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, that's when he got those defamations and arrows of accusation, and you're making takfir upon, how can you, because he was focused upon the shirk. How the people are putting the charms. They used to put charms. They used to put charms on human beings, charms on the animals. They put lots of things. I don't know if you have seen the people, for example, in Africa. And this is not, I would say that this is the only place. But look at them. I'm talking about the Muslims. If you look at these people who, for example, in Darfur, who used to fight with the people who are in the other side, not in Darfur, in one country, it's called Sudan. I have seen one of them. Wallahi, the number of ta'aweez, they call it, the amulets, it's hanging in his dress, and he's a fighter. He can't even count them. Why? Because he believes that those ta'aweez, those amulets, little pouches, been having something in it, and it's been hanging. He believes that this is going to be his bulletproof vest. You know, this is his bulletproof vest. So he's got this, so nobody will touch him. That's what they think. So they believe. They believe in that. So if, for example, he had a bullet shot him and he died, they would say it's not because of the ta'awih, because he was not mukhlis in his shirk. He didn't have sincerity in his shirk. If you have sincerity in his shirk, that bullet will never touch him. This is how they, basically explain what happens to these people. Wallahi, when I've seen that, I said, subhanAllah, ta'aweez in his neck, ta'aweez in his pocket, ta'aweez is hanging, charms. So when Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad Wahab rahimahullah had focused upon this, he's got now those accusations. So Shaykh, he had now started bringing their argumentation and how to refute them. And he would refute them until you are fully satisfied. Right. So this shubuhat is not just against the person of Shaykh Muhammad Wahab. No, it's against the deen, against the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. It's against those people who have started to understand the religion properly. So that's why we are not studying a specific shubuhat, just to Muhammad Wahab. No, to the whole of the deen. Right. So hadaf, the target of the Shaykh by refuting this argumentation, by making this letter, which is being named after him, Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat, is number one, is to make the people understand the Tawheed and what is the opposite of it. And number two is to refute the doubtful matters thrown by those people. Fine. We understand this, alhamdulillah, that what is the purpose of this book. I'm going to now talk about also the book itself and how the book is being divided. I'm going to divide it and I'm going to put it. You're not going to find that in the book of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen. You're going to find, because it's going to be making it easy. With the understanding of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen in the book, inshallah, you will be understanding it a bit more. So let's just start. First of all, giving you a glimpse of what is in the book. The book is of 4 categories. There's 4 categories. The book is 4 categories. Category number 1 is the introduction. Category number 2 is the refutation onto the shubuhat, which is the doubtful matters. Category number 3 is refutation onto some of the proofs being brought by those who are against the da'wah, and there are 4 proofs. So the third category is to refute the proofs being brought by the ones who opposing this da'wah, and there are 4 proofs. And the last category is the khatima, which is the end of the book, which you call it the end of the chapter. Conclusion, yeah, conclusion of the book. And the Shaykh al-Islam, alhamdulillah, he had shown in it the importance of Tawheed, and also that the Tawheed has to have and include the actions. Action is one of the pillars of the Tawheed, and he had focused upon this. And then he had talked about some of the, you could say, weak argumentations and weak excuses for those who are saying we cannot implement Tawheed. So those are the 4 categories. I repeat them again: introduction, number 2, refutation of the doubtful matters, and there are 9 doubtful matters. There are 9 doubtful matters. Okay, and he had actually refuted them. 4 of these doubtful matters out of the 9, they are major. Okay, major. And the third category is to refute some of the proofs that they have brought these people onto their doubtful matters, which are 4, and you refute them. And the last category is the conclusion. Right. So we're going to be dividing this book according to these categories, and we're going to give a title for each category. This title, which is going to be small title to make it easy for you, because we have titles, subtitles, titles, subtitles, makes it easy. Then we'll analyze, and we will as well explain some of the paragraphs in the book. Alhamdulillah. Right. So we said the Kashf Ash-Shubuhaat is the title of the book, and we have said what is the meaning of Kashf and what is the meaning of Shubuhat. Right. I am using actually 4 interpretation for this book, and I'm putting my own in it. So the 4 interpretation you could find in Sheikh al-Uthaymeen, also Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan, and other students of knowledge. First, we're going to talk about we call it al-Maqta' al-Awwal. So the first category, okay, in the first category, we have just said, okay, which is the introduction. The introduction, okay, this introduction is lengthy. Okay, we're going to make as well to read with the very lengthy. It talks about the creed. Please write down. This is the cream of the crop. What is the introduction? The creed of the mushrikeen, the polytheists at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and what is their iman and their beliefs in the Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. And also, it talks about the definition of the Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, definition of ignorance, definition of reinterpretation, and also talks about the enmity of the people of Batil. And it actually consists of this first category, which is the introduction, of 11 subtitles. 11 subtitles. Okay, so we're going to go to the 11. So subtitle number 1 from the category number 1. So subtitle number 1 from the category number 1, which is the category what? Introduction. Subtitle number 1, which is going to be read, and I will tell you to stop, and then we'll talk about it. Fadal. Say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'lam, no further.
In the name of
No problem.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, bestower of mercy. Know, may Allah have mercy upon you, that Tawheed, Islamic monotheism, is to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone with all worship. It is the religion of all the messengers whom Allah sent to his servants. The first of them was Nuh alayhi salam. Allah sent him to his people after they began to exaggerate in their reverence towards the righteous people. Wed, Suwa', Yaghut, Ya'uq, and Nasr. The last of the messengers was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he is the one who destroyed the depictions of these righteous men.
That's it. So this is the first subtitle under the first category, and we're going to give it a title. This first subtitle, the subtitle is going to be of the call of the prophets, is to single Allah in worship. The call of the prophets is to single Allah in worship. He says, as all author starts, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When you say Bismillah, that means Bismillah Rahman, I write. So there's a word which is implemented and missing there. I write Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So this is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, mentioned in the Quran by Prophet. Who's the Prophet who used that word? Sulaiman alayhi salam. It's been used twice. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allah ta'alu alayya wa atuni muslim. Now, the Prophet ﷺ at the beginning is to order to write Bismikallahum. Bismikallahum, in the name of thy Lord. Then when he had given this verse in Surah An-Naml, he started saying what? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the Truce of Al-Hudaybiyah, he commanded to draft the treaty between him and the people of Quraysh with Suhail. So he said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, who drafts, write Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The person who is the kafir on the other side at that time, he said, I don't know who's the Rahman and who's the Rahim. Who's the Rahman and who's the Rahim? Write Bismikallahum. So the Prophet accepted, okay, write Bismikallahum. But since he had read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim from Prophet Sulaiman, after that the Prophet of Allah, any book he sent to any country will be saying what? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is to be, number one, when you read the Quran, number two, when you write letters. But when you start your food, when you enter the toilet, come out of the toilet, put your clothes on, okay, you say what? Bismillah. No Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the Quran when you read, and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim when you write a letter. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and as of any hadith regarding of the excellence and the sunnah of to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim at the beginning of a letter or a beginning of a speech, all of those are unauthentic. They're not authentic. Okay? So one of them is, for example, which is well known, is the one kullu amrin, that every matter which has not been started with Bismillah, فَهُوَ أَبْتَرْ, it's been cut off. That means no barakah. That hadith is not authentic. Okay? But as I said, Bismillah is the key. ستر ما بين أعين الإنس وعورات الجن ما بين أعين الجن وعورات الإنس, the barrier between the eyes of the jinn who's looking at you and the awra, the private parts of the ins, the human being, is to say Bismillah. So you say Bismillah, there will be a curtain between him and us, and he can't see me. So this is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then he says I'lam rahimakallah. I'lam rahimakallah, know, may Allah have mercy upon me. This is something we find it in almost all the books of Muhammad ibn Wahab. I'lam rahimakallah. Because this is to do with the rahmah. And Allah's messenger, he's been labeled to be Ra'ufur Rahim, bil mu'min Ra'ufur Rahim. He's with the believers, Ra'uf, forbearing, Rahim, merciful. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Allah says in the Quran, we have sent you not except to be mercy to mankind. So the whole of this Sharia is mercy. The whole of the Sharia comprises Aqidah and Ahkam and all commands and all prohibition. They came for what? To have mercy upon us. To make us, live the life in mercy. Live the life which is going to be easy. Prophet of Allah, he said, Inni bu'ithtu bihanifiyatin samha. I was sent with an easy-going religion. This is an easy-going religion, ya Akhwani. It's not a difficult religion. A religion that would be fit even to the Bedouin man, the one who did not go to university, the person who knows except for little things, for that little boy who does not know how to recite the Fatiha, the one who thinks the Quran and sound the Quran for him, dan. It was easy for him. This is an easy-going religion. So, i'lam rahimakallah. May Allah have mercy upon you. Now, the first hadith you'll find the students of knowledge of hadith that they will learn, which is the hadith which is we call musalsal bil awlawiyat, ar-rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-rahman. The merciful, Allah will have mercy upon them. Ar-Rahman. Yarhamu man fil ard, have mercy upon the one who's in the earth. Yarhamukum min fis sama, the one who's in the heavens will have mercy upon you. Right. So the Shaykh always, when they teach the students of knowledge, they will teach them Ar-Rahimuna Yarhamuhumur Rahman. So i'lam rahimakallah. Now he says after that, ifradullahi bil ibadah. At-Tawheed huwa. Definition of Tawheed is to single Allah in worship, which is, we call it monotheism. This Tawheed is being mentioned in the hadith of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah's Messenger, he said, and the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ahalla bit Tawheed. Sahih Muslim, that the Prophet of Allah, when he made Tahleel, which is labbaik Allahumma labbaik, he was named as Tawheed. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Bunya al-Islam ala khamsa. Islam was built upon 5 pillars. One of them is an yuwahhad Allah, that is to worship Allah alone, which is shahadatu Allah. So shahadatu la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, the word for it is what? Yuwahhidullah, Tawheedullah. So that's it, make it Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-Islam an ta'bud Allah wa la tushrika bi shay. Islam is to worship Allah alone. This is, and do not associate any worship with him. So when you say labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak, all of this tawheed. At your command, of your service, O Lord, at your command, there is no partner for you, at your command, la sharika lak. So this tawheed is the word from wahid, one, monotheism, wahada. Now, when we know, for example, that how Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is something I need to as well add it to what I've just said regarding the tackling of the Shubuhaat. When the Prophet Allah sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, he had said to him that you're going to be sent to the people of the book. Tawheed, people are supposed to be monotheistic. The first thing to fix is what? Tawheed. First, they are monotheistic, but the monotheistic of theirs have been polluted. They said God is 3 and God is Uzair and God. So let this 3 to become one, monotheistic. قال فإنهم أجابوك إلى ذلك. If they respond to this, that means if after you have tackled their Shubuhaat, because they're going to throw upon you Shubuhaat, what about 3 things? God, how can be 3? How can be the Son and the Holy Ghost? They throw in Shubuhaat. After you have tackled their doubtful matters, and they have settled now that monotheistic is what we believe is monotheistic correctly, then tell them there are 5 daily prayers. So bit by bit, tackle their issues, tackle their Shubuhaat, and then go to the following thing. And this, as I said, we have to add. So Tawheed is what all the prophets came with. Allah, he said, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. We have sent in every nation a messenger to tell the people, to command them, worship Allah alone and shun worshipping the Taghut. So Tawheed, ifradullahi bil ibadah. That is to absolve Allah Azza wa Jal from having any partners. When you do an act, you only intend Allah and nobody else. So Tawheed huwa al-ibadah. And what is the word ibadah? Ibadah, we have a number of definitions for it. Definitions, some of it mentioned by Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, some definition mentioned by other scholars. So let's just talk about the ibadah's definition. The ibadah in Sharia, it means everything which is being required by the Shara, by the legislation to be done, and you will be having a reward for it. That's one definition. Another definition is Ismun Jama, a collective name, a name which is collective. That is لِكُلِّ مَا يُحِبُّهُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, for everything that Allah and His Messenger loves. That Allah Azza wa Jal loves and is pleased with. هُوَ اسم جامع لِكُلِّ. It's a collective name for everything that Allah is pleased with and He's loved. Whether it is from the sayings or the actions, whether the outward or the inward. This is a general also definition. Also, there is another definition for the ibadah mentioned by some of the scholars, which we call the usuliyun, that the ibadah is everything which is being commanded without something that is intellectual to push you, or something which is to do with the customs. So that means basically some of those things that you could see that the Arabs used to do them, like generosity, like being good to their neighbors, and so on and so forth, like being honorable, like being, for example, clean. But there was no command. So when the command came, this is the ibadah. You understand me? So the generosity was among the Arabs before Islam came. But it became an ibadah when the command came to be generous. That's the ibadah. So al-ibadatu ismun jami'un li kulli shay'in yuhibbuhu Allah wa yardah min al-aqwali wal-a'mal al-zahirah wal-batinah. The collective name, well, from everything, which is for everything that Allah loves and Allah is pleased with them, whether it's the same with the actions, the outward or the inward. And you'll be, of course, rewarded for that. So all these three sayings and the three definitions, actually they pour into one lake, the same thing. Right. Then he says, وَهُوَ دِينُ الرُّسُلِ, and this is the deen that all the Rusul was sent to. Or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, الرُّسُلْ أَبْنَاءُ عَلَّاتِ. The messengers are, okay, they are the sons of different mothers, أَبْنَاءُ عَلَّاتِ. Meaning each prophet came with one sharia. Shariat Muhammad, the laws of Muhammad, different from the laws of Prophet Isa, different from the laws of what? But they are belonging to what? To one father. One deen. What is the deen they've been sent with? La ilaha illallah. There's no God but Allah is the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand that? All the prophets have one deen. Islam. All of them brought Islam. But abna'u Allah, meaning they've got different mothers, I mean different sharia. So each prophet got his own sharia. Sharia of the prophet, for example, at the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, was allowed to prostrate as a sign of respect. You remember the sons of Yaqub prostrated to Yaqub, but now we don't have prostration. Okay, so they are abna'u Allah, but one deen, all of them. Allah Azza wa Jal had sent them to worship Him. Arsalahumullah ila ibadi. Allah made these prophets to be sent to those slaves of His, okay, to the people, in order to bring the people up from the darkness of polytheism into the light of what? That's the task of the prophets, which means sent by the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first one, Nuh alayhi salam. He's calling the first one as a Rasul. What is the difference between the Rasul and a Nabi? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 definitions, but which one do we think is the correct one? So most of the scholars, they say, okay, every prophet is not a messenger, but every messenger is a prophet. So they say that the prophet is being given revelation, but is not being commanded to convey. Whereas the messenger is being given the command and the prophethood, but he is being commanded to convey. Do you understand that? And that is, most of the scholars, they say this, and this is not correct. This is the weakest of all. So we don't play here, more scholars on this side, it is correct. No. Because what is the point of a prophet being revealed to him, yet is not being commanded to convey? What is the benefit of that prophet? Do you understand that? A prophet who is being a prophet, just a prophet, but he's not being commanded to convey the message to others. That's not correct. So the prophet, if we have said every messenger is a prophet, that's correct. But if we said not every prophet is a messenger, in the sense or the understanding, a messenger, that means he cannot be a messenger for other people and convey what he's got, this is wrong statement. This is wrong. The prophet is being sent as well to convey, but we're going to see a better definition. Second one, which is a bit closer to the truth, but I wouldn't say, but less wrong, I would say. The one which says that the messenger, he's got a new legislation, new sharia, whereas the prophet, he is conveying the message, but of the prophets before him. Do you understand me? So Musa alayhi salam, when he came, he's a messenger, but the prophets who came after him, for example, Yusha bin Nun and all of those, they are prophets, not what? Not messengers, because they're using the sharia of what? Musa alayhi salam. This is better than the first one, because it makes the prophet to convey the message, but we cannot tackle the issue of Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf, Allah Azza wa Jal called him in the Quran to be a messenger. Where is that new sharia, new legislation that he had conveyed? No. He was conveying what was before him, the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He did not have a new sharia. So how can Allah just call him a messenger and yet he did not convey a new sharia? So it doesn't work. Okay, so that as well, as I said, is less wrong than the first, but it does not give us. We're left with one. Shaykh Hussein says, rahimahullah, the prophet and the messenger. The messenger is the one who's been commanded to convey his message to the disbelievers. Whereas the Prophet is being commanded to convey his message to the believers, to the ones who believed. Okay? And that will accommodate for all the prophets and messengers mentioned in the Quran. Right. We have to, most important things to know for us is that some scholars even did not differentiate between a prophet and a messenger. So they called Adam alayhi salam to be a messenger. Okay? There's no difference. And that's a strong opinion for them, strong opinion. But we say the most important thing is that what is the thing that we need to know about the prophet and messenger? Both of them, they have revelation. Both of them, they have been commanded to convey the haqq. Both of them, they are immune against the major sins. Prophets and messenger. We have to know that. But also, we have to know that as well, prophets are much more than the messengers. Messengers are less. The prophets. And we know only of what? How many? In terms of name-wise? 25. And as for numbers, there's a hadith says 124,000 prophets. Some scholars make it authentic. And 314 messengers. 314 and 124,000 prophets. Right. Allah Azza wa Jal had sent them, starting with Nuh, because he was sent to the disbelievers. Prophet Adam alayhi salam, when he came down, was this offsprings and all his people that he was their father. They were living for 1,000 years as monotheistic. Only the polytheism took place at the time of whom? Nuh alayhi salam. That means people before Nuh, and then when Nuh came, he had called them to Islam. Then when they have, how they started? They started becoming a stream in the righteous people. So when Wad, wa Suwa', wa Yaghuth, wa Ya'uq, wa Nasr, 4 religious people, righteous people, guided people, died, they started to linger around their graves in order to mourn their death, in order to remember them. And that was the first brink and spark of shirk. First, which is extremism. They got to the graves, started going to the graves. Shaitan said to them, by whispering, by maybe coming, but they don't know who he is, gave him a suggestion. You are only remembering them when you come to the graves. It's better for you to remember them as well, 24/7. He came to them as a sheikh. Sheikh Shaitan, a'udhu billah. So he said, better for you to make a statue. Little one, not big one, a small one. In your house, representing what was so. So every time you look at them, it will remind you. So you just come to the grave and remember them. I like that idea. So he made little statues and put them in the houses in order for them to remember what was so. There's no shirk yet. It's all about extremism, ghuluw in the righteous people until they died. Following generation came now, who had not had any contact with the ones before, and there was no knowledge, ignorance, no knowledge. So he said to them, your forefathers before you used to worship them. that. So they started worshiping. This is hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas in Sahih Bukhari. So they started worshiping Wad wa Suwa' wa Yaghuth wa Ya'uq wa Nasr. Those had statues everywhere, especially in Bilad al-Sham. Then the shirk had taken so many types of shirk. Then it came at the time just before the Prophet ﷺ. One person is called Amr ibn Luhay al-Khuza'i. He is the one, what he done. He traveled to Bilad al-Sham. He dug these statues out and he dragged them to the Arabian Peninsula and he put them there to the Kaaba. So the Prophet said, I have seen Amr ibn Luhay al-Khuza'i dragging his intestines in hell. Why? Because he's the first person who had changed the religion of the Arabs. The Arabs were upon Ibrahim alayhi salam's religion, monotheistic. He was the first person to change Arab religion. Made them to worship statues. But Then he says, وَآخِرُ الرُّسُلِ, and the last messenger, Muhammad. Those Rusul, we have Ulul Azm, the strongest one, which the Quran mentions, Ulul Azmi min al-Rusul. Who are they? 5. Starting with Nuh. After that, not Ibrahim. Third one, Musa. Fourth one, and fifth one, Muhammad. Those are the 5 of messengers of Ulul Azm, which they have struggled in the people and they made a big, okay. قال والذي كسر صور هؤلاء الصالحين. He's the one who had demolished Prophet of Allah when he entered Mecca. He had how many statues? 360. Beside the 360 statues outside, there are images inside the what? The Kaaba. When he entered the Kaaba, he saw the image of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, يستقسم بالأزلام. He's drawing lots. He said, أعوذ بالله. He was not. Started rubbing him, and then the other one started rubbing it from the walls. There's images. He was يستقسم بالأزلام. That he's drawing lots. Which is the best fate for me? Okay, which is the best fate? No, this one or this one. Take the best fate. Allahu musta'an. So he had, and then after it's been removed, he offered 2 rak'ah inside the Kaaba. So he is the one who had demolished the Salih. By which, alhamdulillah, we finished the first subtitle of the first category. How many categories we have? What? 4. And this is the longest one because it's a lengthy introduction. And we divided into how many? 11 subtitles. So this is the first subtitle, which is that the call of the messengers is to single Allah in worship. Okay, makes it easy like this, isn't it? Part, and we'll give it what we gain from it, explain it, all of it, inshallah. So start, inshallah, next week from second part. Jazakumullah khair. Alhamdulillah. Right, do you have any questions? Faddal ya Sheikh. What is your food?
People ask when they do Tawassul, the Prophet grave, some of them say that you can when you do it at the grave of Prophet. Some of them actually really say you can do it anywhere, but some say when you go there you can ask Prophet to intercede. Is that shirk or is that?
Okay, we're not allowed to ask, oh Muhammad, intercede for me. This is calling beside Allah Azza wa Jal. A'udhu billah. Because you're making supplication to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah Azza wa Jal, he said, قُلْ ادْعُونِي. Say, ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Call upon me. You don't call upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you could call upon Allah to provide you or grant you the intercession of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So saying, O Messenger of Allah, ishfa' is a shirk. Shirk akbar. O Messenger of Allah, how can you ask the Prophet of Allah and he's dead? This is calling the dead people. You see what a shirk? You didn't know that? Did you know that? Calling other than Allah is shirk. But you could say, oh Lord, grant me with the intercession of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the one who will get the intercession of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are the ones who are monotheistic. The ones who are monotheistic. And the intercession of the Prophet of Allah is going to go most likely to the ones who are major sinners. Do you understand? The Prophet ﷺ is not going to give intercession to somebody who's righteous. MashaAllah, it's deeds, they don't need intercession. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the ones who are going to gain my intercession, Ahlul Kaba'iri min ummati. The one who got major sins from my ummah. The one who are going to be, because they need it. So otherwise they're going to be what? In hell for a long time. And the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ is part of a number of intercessions, because we have angels interceding. We have prophets interceding. And we have Prophet Muhammad ﷺ interceding. And we have the believers and righteous people interceding. We have the martyrs interceding. But the Prophet of Allah, he's got an intercession which is nobody else has got it, which is the intercession of the major one, Shafa'atul Kubra, which we can see it at the time when we are in the land of the gathering, sun is close and shaking and tiredness, and we want to start the reckoning, al-hisab. We go from one prophet to another, and each one says, I'm not fit for it, until we go to the Prophet Muhammad, and he will prostrate. Al-Maqam al-Mahmud. This is Al-Maqam al-Mahmud, the station which is being only given to the Prophet. And this is intercession. That's intercession number one, only to the Prophet. The same place takes place when we are, which is not as, the strong as this one, but this one as well, to open paradise. So after we cross the bridge, we cross as well the little Qantara, then we need somebody to open paradise. Nobody's going to open to paradise. Not even if you know the password. The one who's going to know the enter paradise, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we go back again to the Prophet Adam, to all the prophets, and all of them said, no. And the Prophet of Allah, he is the one who will knock the ring on the gate. And the God, he has said, I've been commanded to open to you. Only to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The first person to enter paradise is Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with the prophets. Then of course after that, the first dispatch will be Fuqara al-Muhajirin. The Fuqara, the poor people of the immigrants. The one who migrated from Mecca, the ones who had nothing. Those are the first people to enter paradise after the prophets. Now, bye. Does that answer your question, inshallah? Bye. Any other questions, Ikhwan? So, alhamdulillah, we fixed now shirk. You can't say, oh, Muhammad, ishfa'li. The shirk. Now, fadal. We have lots of questions here. On one side, here I will go to the online. Now.
Sorry, you might mention it, but sorry.
MashaAllah, we've got 131. Alhamdulillah.
Which definition is the Imam Al-Uulaa mentioned for Rusul? He said the first messenger.
No, he did not mention the definition. I'm explaining. He did not mention. He said Rusul. He did not mention the definition. I'm giving you Shaykh al-Islam al-Taymi definition.
But if he's saying the first messenger was Nuh alayhi salam,
yeah, but it doesn't give us the criterion by which he had said that, because most of the scholars, they say Nuh alayhi salam is the awwal Rasul. Okay, most of the scholars. But there's a hadith, it's awwal Nabi, Adam alayhi salam. First prophet, Adam alayhi salam. But Adam alayhi salam definitely had no mushrikeen at this time. He had no polytheists. But we don't know which the criterion he had used. Let's go to Faisal. Yalla Faisal. In Tawheed, please. No prayer, no ahkam.
Right. Sheikh, that famous saying, right, of Imam Malik, that everyone's opinion can be accepted or rejected except the occupant of the grave.
By the way,
is it authentic that
I
Ibn
lost you there,
Abbas,
except because everybody lost you, can't hear you that word, except for the one who is in the grave, the occupant of
Right.
that grave. Yes.
is that statement authentic from Ibn Abbas as the first person to say that?
This saying? No.
Yes.
Allah ibn Abbas didn't say that. Allah ibn Abbas
Okay.
said something different, similar to it. Allah ibn Abbas, he said, the heavens are about to rain or showers with stones. This is when somebody came to him, he said to him, what do you think of the mut'ah? Mut'ah means tamattu' in Hajj. He said, well, the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded to do tamattu'. He said, but Abu Bakr and Umar, they don't do tamattu'. They don't say this tamattu'. He said, I'm saying to you, Allah, and you say to me, Abu Bakr and Umar, the heavens are about to shower you with stones. Allah is going to send you stones. So if Muhammad ﷺ said something, you are comparing that to the saying of Abu Bakr and Umar. يوشك أن تمطر عليكم السماء حجارة. يوشك أن تمطر عليكم السماء حجارة. So that's يعني similar to it, but it's not the saying of Imam Malik. كل يؤخذ من قوله ويرد إلا صاحب هذا القبر. Every person can be taken from and rejected except the occupant of that grave. And Imam Malik was the Mufti of Medina, so he was next to the grave in the Masjid of the Haram. Now, يلا يا أحمد.
Jazakallah khairan, Shaykhana. Shaykhana, is the Bani Tamim the same Bani Tamim which is from Ismail and Ibrahim alayhim as-salam?
That's what we believe. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh.
Hib Muslim. Habib, sorry. Habib Muslim.
No, please, Sheikh. I'd like to find out if it's permissible to use day and night nose, because both of them contain
Use what?
ethanol.
Sorry. Use what?
Day and night nose for flu.
Day and night nuts.
Yes.
Night nurse, it's got a little bit of alcohol in it.
They
Day
go
and
out
night
ethanol.
nurse.
Yeah.
Day and night
Yeah.
nurse.
There's one in day nurse and then one as you take at night.
What is it? A coughing medicine? I don't know what you see. You're talking about a company. It's like Hoover. I don't know Hoover, for example. Day and night nurse. So I mean, you see, so they're saying to me that they've got a bit of alcohol. Is that right?
Yeah, they got ethanol.
They got what?
Ethanol.
Ethanol,
Ethanol.
which is alcohol.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
So does it say on the package it gets you drowsy if you took too much?
Yes.
Yeah, then haram. That is haram. If it takes you drowsy, it's haram. That means the alcohol is above the percentage. The people here, the brothers here, the students, they say to me that it gets you high. خير إن شاء الله. نعم. تفضل يا أستاذ سليم.
Isa alayhi salam is a Rasul. When he comes back, is he like a prophet?
Is Isa alayhi salam is a messenger, Rasul. Is when he comes, going to come as a prophet? Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, and also before that, the Almighty Azza wa Jal, he said about Muhammad what? Khatam al-Mursaleen or Khatam al-Nabiyyin? Khatam al-Nabi, the seal of the what? Of the Prophet, not the seal of the messengers. And also the Prophet ﷺ, he said, La Nabiyya ba'di or La Rasula ba'di? La Nabiyya ba'di. There's no prophet after me. So there will be no prophet after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But he did, as for messengers, they could come messenger, but he's not a prophet. Messenger. The Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he will come down, but he will not come down as a prophet. He will come like a mujaddid, reviver. And that is why if he was to be a prophet, he would have never let, for example, Al-Mahdi to lead him in the prayer, because he will lead in the prayer. But yet he led, he made Mahdi to lead the prayer while he's in there. Because if he had to lead the prayer, he would have confused us. If he had to lead the prayer, Prophet Isa salam, he would confuse us, because we'll know now, is the Sharia of Muhammad been abrogated now? But it's been led by the Ummah Muhammad. So he said, imamukum min ummatikum. Your imam is from you. So he was led behind. And that, alhamdulillah, helped us to know that he did not come to abrogate the Sharia of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, he comes as a mujaddid. Comes as a mujaddid. He's a prophet, but he comes as a mujaddid. He does not come as a person who's going to abolish the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, you have no questions here, no questions everywhere. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.